On from the previous video entitled An Introduction to Mnemonics, and we're looking at worldviews. This is video two of two so far. Now, we were saying in the previous video that worldviews can be represented with world space graphs. The world space that we're examining right now is called the X world space, and it revolves around the concept of X, which I've illustrated more or less is green, the notion of the color green, or just green, the word, or whatever it is, depends on where you are in the graph. But from my perspective at M, I have a certain number of different arrows terminating to me, which I've ended up with as bits of information that inform my knowledge of what X is. So there are a number of different. Oh, just one sec. Cannot open. That's bad. There are a number of different mnemonics that make up M's worldview. Some of them are internal to their own mnemonic series, their understanding of what X is. But some of them are also fed in from outside. So one particular meme, I guess is probably the best way of calling it, which has come from a knowledge of Sapien S and their particular take on what green is represented by these two arrows, which are a parallel mapping, monodirectional in this case, and not in. Well, they're really monodirectional. I guess it's a little bit tricky to introduce that term at this stage, so I think I'll just get rid of it. So let's just say it's a parallel mapping between S and M. M's queried S's knowledge of M, either deliberately or inadvertently, and they've ended up with a knowledge of S's projection of what X is. S is another type of player in the graph. So S is a sapien in this case. I'll use S to denote sapien. And I've got the most fundamental network here, N0. This is feeding back into S from S's own understanding of X. And because we're M, we don't know about how that works. So we don't know enough about S's internal workings to ascertain what is contained in this N0 network. So this may as well be invisible to us, but we assume that it's there. And there is another S in the graph. Now this S is not linked to M. So S is not known to M. S's understanding of X is only known to M through what S understands of S2. Excuse me, sorry, I'll say that again. So M's understanding of S2's understanding of X is only known to M through what S knows of S2. I think I got that right, yeah. So S2, much like S, has all the same attributes. It has a N0 loop. It also has one connection to this S. In that S2 has queried S as to what the color green looks like, and this could be done. Maybe this tweet was also read by this S2, but the ocular apparatus that they used to view the tweet, maybe it was a screen, or who knows what was configured. So this is what green was represented as. This type of green. It's a different type of green to that one there, and that particular green was inherited from X. So this green attribute, this particular color, has been inherited directly from X by S. Now, this is also reliant on one other factor, which is pretty key here, and that is that there is a law that is known to S2 and S. they both query the law, and I have made a small mistake here because what I wanted to do was have them getting the same information. So they've both queried the law, and what they've gotten from that law is that RGB, the RGB value 0, 255, and 0, and 0 is equivalent to the concept of X. I've done capitals there, but so basically the thing about a law is that it can only return the exact same data, and it can only be queried in the same way in this case. Can't quite fix that. In any case, it's not really matter. So, okay, so back to this. So S2 has queried L, requested what is X according to this law, and has had returned to it RGB 0, 20, 255, 0. The same thing has happened with S. They're both triangles, and so they're both, well, they're S, whatever S is, but sort of metaphorically a sapien. They have the same apparatus essentially through which to query this, and they have the same knowledge of this law. So because they have the same knowledge of this law and the same apparatus, then they both receive RGB 02550, and then that is then reinforced by their understanding of what S has shown S2 to be this color. Because they have an understanding of what this color is, then they were both able to agree that this color is 02550, the RGB code. Now, since M is unaware or doesn't know the law arrow shape or whatever this law is, unfortunately, their only way of knowing what X is through their knowledge of the word green and the oculus through which they can view their this tweet which has this color used in it. So we don't know exactly why, but for some reason when M queried S, this was what M saw. So M knew now that this is green. But at the same time, when M queried its own understanding of what X is, represented by this shape here, N2, in fact, what N found is that N2, its knowledge of N2 indicated to it that this was in fact green, or at least the color green, and then so it's had an impetus to access N2, and it's also had an impetus to access N3, which is also related to N2 via a distance of N1. So they're very closely related concepts, because another shade of green that is known to the mnemonic N3, and of course by relationship then M, is this color. Now, this is a distance of N2 from M, because both N2 and N3 are required in order for, so actually this is where the arrow is missing, so that's supposed to be there, and this is a query from N3, so that means that N3 queries thusly, and is returned an informational cascade, which is in line with the information that N2 knows as well. Now, there is a lot of possibility here for interconnecting other nodes, and so that what's actually returned to M is in fact something a little bit more complex. So I'm just going to represent that by returning a different type of green, different shade of green to N3. And in addition to that, then N3 is going to return some combination of those greens, which I guess might be this, probably isn't. But in any case, so now N2, having queried all these different understandings of what green is, I think that one was this, no? It's this one, this more electric kind of aquamarine thing. No, that's that one, okay. This just goes to show how, what I'm trying to represent here, it's just like very, okay, good. So So we have this network of all of these different shades of green. We have a word green, which has been returned from outside. We have consensus between two S's. There is a strong relationship from this S down to M, which is represented by this arrow, and likewise there is a that's what I wanted to say. And again, another strong connection down that it's this particular blue that reinforces that. So yeah, we end up with a kind of composite of what M has at its disposal to work out what X is. And I'm not sure if I mentioned at the beginning of the video, but I have in the previous runs I recorded that all got deleted, that basically X is returning the state M directly. So M queries X directly, that's a given, because it's a concept which is known to all parties in the graph.